Hello and welcome you crazy people, my name is Jay and we're going to have a look at some 40k news from the online preview, mainly the fact that Games Workshop are doing a new chapter approved, but with a little twist. This time it's for terrain, weirdly, and they're also doing one that's for Crusade. And I just want to talk about that a little bit because I have some thoughts and I think it's intriguing that that's what they're doing. So let's have a quick look at the news. Excuse me there, did a little burp, but the transition obviously covered it. So they've got this cool Necron dude who's got 6 guns and 6 eyes. That's fine, funny, enjoyable. Yeah, that's just amusing. But they're also doing 2 new books. They're doing basically a mission pack for Crusade. If you've been playing Crusade, that narrative kind of style, then you'll probably be interested in that. Fair enough. They're also doing this Vertigus, or I don't know how you say that necessarily properly, which is a box of terrain, which is interesting. Apparently this is essentially like in a cathedral where it's belting out the organ and stuff like that. It might be like a big music box. But interestingly for me, they're doing this one, which is chapter approved, so it's basically for match play. Mission pack tactical deployment. And the reason this is vaguely even interesting is obviously last year at the end of 2019 we got a chapter approved. Made sense, they do that every year, and then we've recently got a chapter approved to go along with the release of a 9th edition. And then everybody was like, we're getting another chapter approved, and it's like, well, yeah, but it's actually a mission pack with a twist. And the twist is, and there's 18 new missions in here, and you'll be allowed, basically the missions where each player brings their own themed terrain to create a balanced battlefield along with your opponents, right? And it's also going to have like this concept for organizers where the players themselves are bringing the terrain. So let's say you had 100 people, this is an example they used. You, instead of needing 50 sets of terrain, you can actually just sort of like get the players to do it. And it's not that I have a problem with this, but I think it slightly indicates that the way that Games Workshop does their news, and I brought a little bit of the way that Games Workshop does their rules, is unusual. And I think they sell their rules in quite a lot of ways. Now, is a book dedicated to this sort of concept where you bring your own terrain really needed? Could it have gone into one of the other books? Possibly, maybe the actual chapter approved book, maybe the rule book. I'm not so sure. Weirdly, I think Games Workshop are doing what I expect a lot of companies to be doing in the next decade. When 3D printing gets more and more popular, they'll sell specifically the rules, and maybe they're already there. But to have this many books is a little, from an outsider's point of view, pretty much it's a little bit unusual. But this one does have its own twist. The twist, though, with this one is that it's being for terrain. By the way, go and check out my channel, Terrain Made Easy. If you want to know how to make terrain, well, that's the perfect way to do that. It's dedicated around being like reasonably easy and cheap. So crack on with that. It's an interesting twist, not one that I personally would enjoy. But yeah, so did they need a new book for this? Possibly. Another question that obviously isn't answered yet is, will you need the Games Workshop terrain? Like, is the terrain gonna have rules? And if it is gonna have rules, it's probably going to need to be the Games Workshop terrain. If that's the case, then my terrain channel is completely out the door. Like, it's out the window. You can't use that stuff because I'm, crafting it myself. So we're not 100% sure about that. And I've got to say, yes, I'm making terrain. I have my terrain channel. But one of the reasons I went to tournaments in the past was so I could play on a nice battlefield with terrain that I didn't necessarily have to worry about. And it wasn't the same terrain each tournament, each match, sorry. So, if you've got half of it, then you're going to see that your half of the terrain every game. Yeah, it might be nice for display boards and stuff like that, but it's adding the possibility that you'll get sick of it and your army because you're more likely to be playing on a battlefield that's sort of similar every time. Now, yes, you might see your opponent have their themed, and the problem with that is if you've got snow themed terrain and they've got desert themed terrain and you put it on a grass board, it could all just look weird. The whole concept, if I'm honest, I just find peculiar. I find the concept of having another chapter approved, and I mean, it's basically, this is a rule for a specific kind of tournaments, or if you want this idea of bringing your own terrain. But if you're a casual player playing at home, you'll probably have made your own terrain, and this isn't really anything. And basically, one thing, very important thing I didn't add is basically it's a terrain sort of draft system, I think. So essentially, I think your opponent, you'd probably put all your terrain into like a pool, and then you'd probably take turns placing it. It's got rules for placing the terrain to try and make it like a balanced game, and that's important. But like, yeah, sure, okay, but yeah, so like having that as a concept to book, who like, if you want to go to an event that does this, do you need to have that book, or will the rules event just tell you how to do it? It's just an unusual one, and I'm really intrigued if we're going to get a chapter approved at the end of 2019, a chapter approved with 9th edition, a chapter approved for terrain balance competitive rules, and then a chapter approved at the end of 2020. That would be really like interesting. The other chapter approved, like it's not a chapter approved, it's just a mission pack for like narrative plays. Fair enough. These are obviously both optional. The only thing is when you put a chapter approved one that's like a for tournaments match play, it maybe becomes a little bit less optional. So yeah, I don't have too strong thoughts on it. A bit of me, because I don't really play 40k. I've been trying to get into Combat Patrol, but because of the coronavirus, I'm not really going out. I'm not so. I've got nobody to play in my house. My little baby is like nearly 5 months old. She's not going to be game for it, and the mother is quite tired. So I'm not willing to risk it yet. So I will try and get into it. I've got my little like kill team amount ready. So yeah, I sort of want to play it. So this is probably not relevant to me anyway, because I will never go and play these big games. But I can see if you are, like, it's just another book to carry around, another book of rules. And I feel like there's too many books of rules already, and they keep adding more. So I might come across a little bit dissatisfied with it. I don't even play the game at the minute, so I'm not really in a good position for this. So I'm more interested in what you guys think about it, and just letting you know that this is the thing. And I just find it such a confusing thing. Now, it's all optional. You don't have to buy this stuff. You can just buy the core rulebook and play the missions in the core rulebook, fine. But I don't sort of take that on board when, personally, if I was to play, I would be on the competitive side of things. And if you're a competitive player, you sort of sometimes, are they trying to twist your hand to buy it? Are they trying to twist your hand to say use terrain in your games and then buy this terrain? It has to be our terrain. Like, that would be a really interesting move. So I don't want to come across as super upset with Games Workshop or anything like that. I don't have a horse in the race. I'm not involved necessarily. I just find it unusual, and I'm very intrigued in your thoughts. I will be making another video in a second talking about the Warcry and the Underworld stuff, but I just wanted to separate this because I think like it's such a specific niche 40k topic that I'm intrigued in the people who actually play 40k as opposed to myself. Because of the coronavirus. I'm interested in your thoughts, so do let me know in the comments below. Other than that, I hope you have a most beautiful day. I was going to say like and subscribe. I'm not sure it's worth it. Goodbye.